Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim R. Today is episode 131, and we're interviewing Amber M. How are you doing today, Amber?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you got your little baby joining us for the interview.
Yes.
All right. So let's dive in and get started. Tell me about your childhood.
So my childhood started off like everyone else's childhood till I was about 7. I was born in Alabama. My parents divorced when I was about 7. After that, I lived with my dad. He was a single parent till I was about 8. There was some sexual trauma, in my early years, about 7 or 8, with a babysitter. And then he got with his wife and she was pretty abusive. And when I was about 11, my dad and my stepmom kicked me out. So I had to go live with my grandparents in a different county.
Why did they kick you out?
My stepmom, it was just me and my stepmom a lot. And she always told my dad that I was bad. And I didn't want my dad to be sad because I thought he loved her. So I was just like, yeah, I'm bad. But I was just a rambunctious little kid because I'd been abused. I had a little bit of behavioral problems, but nothing out of the ordinary for an elementary school student.
Yeah. So was the divorce tough on you?
Not really. I had a sister that was 14 months older than me. I missed her. She wanted to go with my mom and I wanted to go with my dad. So they let us pick because they just wanted us to be happy wherever we was. But I missed her a little bit. My mom ended up moving to Summerville, South Carolina. No, I don't even think a year later, but it wasn't too bad I really didn't care, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went to live with my grandparents, and from there, I lived in 14 houses and 4 years. Yeah, between 3 states and 14 counties. When I was 12, I had moved in with an aunt in West Virginia. And she was real young. She was only 22. Somehow I convinced her to do drugs with me when I was 12. And
wow,
so that
you were using that young, huh?
Yeah, 12 years old. So we started smoking weed and drinking alcohol. And eventually she had a little baby that was a year old. Eventually I just stopped going to school because one day I came home from school and her drug use had gotten pretty bad itself. But I came home from school one day at 4:30 in the afternoon, and the baby was in the room crying. And I asked her when he went down for a nap. And she said, oh, he's been there since he put him to bed last night. So he hadn't ate breakfast, lunch, or dinner. He'd just been up there crying. And I went up there and it was sad. He was so hungry. He had eaten his poop.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I brought him, and in my 12-year-old mind, I just thought I have to feed him. He has to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner right now because he missed all 3 meals. So, I got him cereal, and as he was eating cereal, I was making him lunch. And then as he was eating, all within the hour, as he was eating the lunch, I was making him dinner. And I remember telling my aunt, I was like, at this point, I'd already missed 65 days of school. But I was like, I don't have to go to school anymore so I can take care of him. I had felt so bad about seeing that scene of just poop everywhere and that he had eaten it. I just told her, I don't have to go to school. I could stay home and take care of him. And of course, in her own addiction, she was just like, yeah, that's a great idea. Well, she used to do just real odd stuff, just she would have me fight people. And I'm only 5 foot as an adult. So as a child, I was real little. But
why would she have you fighting?
Guys, boys.
Well, why would she have you fight?
Her entertainment.
Really?
Yeah. Just her own entertainment. But eventually one day, my sister came to visit me And her son he was eating. Made him food and he was eating, and he had thrown food all over the floor. And this is after, months and months of not going to school anymore and just always having him. And he used to call me mom when I was 12 just because she was never around. She told my sister, she was like, well, I'm glad he's Amber's responsibility and not mine. And I just got so irritated. I was like, you made him. He is not my responsibility. And she walked over like she was going to slap me. And in my 12-year-old head that was also on drugs, I was like, she ain't hitting me. I've done things that I didn't want to do. And she walked over and I punched her. And I got kicked out. Didn't really have a residence. My grandparents came and picked me up. They was always there for me, but they came and picked me up from Ohio. And I just kind of bounced around that summer till I got back to my mom's in South Carolina. And from there, I was just, I remember my whole childhood, I was just angry at everybody. I was mad at my family.
Where did you bounce around? Because you said, it was a ton of places. So what were you going to, like friends' houses or family members?
Family members, just family members in various states and counties. Just bouncing around till I could get back to my mom's at the end of the summer in South Carolina. But I was mostly in Ohio that summer. So when I got back to my mom's, I was just, I punished my mom a lot because I was just angry about being abused in elementary school by my stepmom. And I was punishing her for something she didn't even know happened. So I just, I was always getting suspended. I was always getting expelled. I ended up my 10th grade year getting expelled for repeated drug use in school.
So and you were going to school high.
Yeah, I was going to school high. I was getting high at school on pills.
What age? So let me ask you this. What age did you first ever use drugs?
12.
So it was 12.
12. But when I was 7, my dad gave me 3 shots of banana rum. So I was real young. Yeah.
So that's a lot of liquor for a 7-year-old. 3 shots.
It is.
I mean, you shouldn't give any liquor to a 12-year-old or 7-year-old. But at 7, wow, that's a lot of booze.
Yeah. Yep. So I ended up having to be homeschooled because I couldn't get a school to accept me because I'd been permanently expelled. And I ended up doing this homeschool called ECOT because they don't deny anyone. Did really well with that. Started working at a muffler shop building exhaust until my 12th grade year. I think I had 3 credits to go and I ended up dropping out because I just thought I don't have enough time for my drug use and my drinking that I want to do. So I'm just not going to go to school. And that was basically my childhood, just a lot of bouncing around. Yeah, real young.
So when did you start, like, where you had a habit with drugs? Like, you were obviously doing stuff at 12, but at what point did you form like an addiction, do you think?
So I got pregnant with my first child when I was 18, and my whole pregnancy, I didn't do anything because I was so happy to be pregnant. I just felt like this baby was a gift to me, and I'm going to be a better parent than my parents were.
What was your using like from 12 years old up to that age?
Bad, everything. Bath salts, pills, weed, alcohol.
I've never actually, so I want to ask you a question. What is bath salts? I've never understood. Is that something that's literally meant to go in the tub?
No, bath salts is like, they have that K2, that fake weed, but it's not really something you burn. It's not the stuff that goes in the tub. It's just a chemical that makes a powder, and it's like a synthetic meth.
Okay.
But
so it's an upper.
Huh?
It's an upper.
Yes. So I had my son a week and 1 day before he was born. My cousin was killed in my living room. She was shot execution style by her husband. So I didn't live there for a while, but I moved back in there when my son was about 5 months old, and I started doing pills immediately upon arrival. And I hadn't done anything since I found out I was pregnant up until this point. But I used to be like one of them people that I would do one perk 5 and I would just be puking because it was too much for me.
Oh, yeah.
And but I also had this mentality where I thought, if I'm not puking, then I'm just not doing enough of them. I just wanted more and more. And it's weird, but I liked that part where felt like I was teeter-tottering on the edge of living and dying. And it was one day I took an Oxy 80 and I didn't puke and I wasn't sick. And then that's the day that I realized, like, I'm addicted to drugs. This whole time I'd been going to the doctor telling him I thought I had arthritis when I didn't. I was pill sick. And I didn't know that I was addicted to pills until I did that whole Oxy and by myself and I didn't puke. That's when I knew.
That's a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
I can't believe they make pills that big. I mean, I never took more than an Oxy 30 and those were strong.
Yeah, they don't. Well, I don't even think they make them no more. I think it's something else now, but this was 10 years ago.
Yeah. There was pill mills everywhere and everybody was writing prescriptions.
Oh, yeah.
You went to the doctor for anything, they brought out that little script pad and what do you need?
Yep. Well, I don't think my son might have just turned 1 and the pills were starting to just get too expensive because I was needing more and more and more and more. And somebody told me one day, they was like, well, there isn't any pills around, but there's heroin. And I was like, no, junkies do that. I don't want to do that. Yeah. Well, as days went by, I was just more sick and more sick, thinking I had arthritis. And I was like, well, maybe I could just do a little bit of it. And then the very first time I did it, was undescribable. Like, to a regular person, it would have felt like kissing Jesus. I ended up losing my house that year, my car, started bouncing around from place to place.
Well, real quick, going back, felt like kissing Jesus. Like, so it was that powerful, obviously.
Yeah.
So from there on in, how did your use progress? Did you automatically like dive head in, or did you do like little by little? How did it happen?
I've always had that mentality. If I'm not puking, I'm not doing enough. So I just dove right in. After I started heroin, I don't even think it was 6 months, and I was on the needle.
So what'd you start doing?
I was shooting up heroin.
Well, no, when you first did it, when you snorted, because you said it took you a while to.
Oh, yeah. At first I snorted it. And then it was maybe 6 months later, I went to someone's house and they had tar heroin. And I guess I was still kind of new to heroin, but I get to this house and they all pull out these needles. And I was like, oh, I've never done that. And they was like, well, you can't snort tar. And I was like, well, I'll shoot it up. And I'll never forget this guy that was there. I didn't know who he was. I ended up knowing him after that, but he said, no, I'll give you $100 if you don't shoot it up. And I was like, nope, I'm shooting it up. And he said, you don't understand what you're doing. And I was like, but I want to understand. And, I think about that guy a lot because I really had drug addiction is drug addiction. But when I got into that needle, it was a whole different game.
It's that powerful, huh?
It was that powerful. So then I ended up getting incarcerated because of some crimes I committed to feed my drug addiction.
What kind of crimes?
A burglary. And, I know people that would be like, oh, I robbed the dope dude. I robbed an innocent victim, a war veteran, for his pills, someone who really needed those pills. Stealing from somebody is stealing from somebody, but for a long time, I wished I could just say, I stole from somebody that was selling drugs, but I didn't. I stole from somebody who was in a war who needed those pills.
Looking back, we do some sad things, things that we regret.
Yep, my grandpa owned a business. I robbed it 3 times because I knew he wouldn't press charges on me. You know, I just did a lot of hurt and family members that was always there for me. I didn't hurt the ones that I felt hurt me. I hurt the ones that I knew loved me.
Because you knew they'd forgive you.
Yep. I ended up losing custody of my son right before he turned 2. And then I just spiraled even faster down.
Why did you lose your son?
I lived in a house that got raided for 77 grams of heroin with my son. So just didn't have nowhere to take him. So I was just bouncing him from dope house to dope house. And his dad isn't an addict, but his dad just, you know, enough was enough. And he had to protect him. So he took him from me.
Do you think that was the right thing for him to do?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because looking back now, you know, I think I don't even know if I was giving him a bath every day. You know, I was just so high all the time. I don't know who was taking care of him. And I hate that, but that's the truth.
Again, like you said, his stuff is just powerful.
Yeah. So from there, I just, you know, I got locked up. I got out, started getting high again. There was people that was nice enough in my family and my son's dad that let me live with them. But, you know, it was almost like I wanted to be homeless because I didn't want to live somewhere where I couldn't do drugs. I wanted to do drugs and I didn't care who I had to give up to do those drugs. When my son was about 7, I got pregnant with my second child. And by that point, I'd gotten into meth real bad and had been on meth.
Who turned you on to meth?
I was just one of them people, like if it was there, I was doing it. But as soon as I discovered meth, I didn't even do heroin anymore just because I liked that meth high.
Yeah.
Yep, I was just one of those people. If it was around, I was going to do it. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to do drugs and I wanted to shoot them up. At one point, I was 62 pounds in my drug addiction. Just literally looked like I was going to die.
Wow, that is.
A child is
I don't
that
even know
small.
what to say. I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm just imagining looking at you at that point, being so
Yeah.
skinny. I mean, that's skin and bones, literally like someone
Yep.
out of a prison war camp. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people that are starved and stuff.
So I got pregnant with my middle son. And I was just, you know, I was living in a house that had no gas, no electric, no water. And I gained 100 pounds while I was pregnant with him, which I didn't really understand because I found out I was pregnant and I did not slow down my meth use. I ended up finding out that I had preeclampsia and gestational diabetes, which is why it was like, oh, water weight. But I think I was about 6 months pregnant the first time I went to the doctor. And when I went to the doctor, you know, they was doing an ultrasound and things just looked not right. So they kept sending me to other doctors. And I ended up finding out that he had a severe heart condition. Your heart is supposed to have 4 chambers. His only had 3. There was stuff that was backwards. There was stuff in the wrong place. There was stuff in his heart that was there that wasn't supposed to be there. So he was born 1 month early. My water broke after I shot up meth at my friend's house at 3 a.m. And I waited 3 hours to even go to a hospital. So he ended up being born in an ambulance on the side of the road, somewhere on the highway. When he was born, his fingernails and his toenails started turning blue and he wouldn't cry. And this lady that was in the ambulance with me kept him alive till we got to the closest hospital. We get to that hospital and he was life flighted to a nationwide hospital for children. I was hemorrhaging really bad. So they didn't want me to leave the hospital, but, you know, still being high, I told the nurse, I was like, whatever papers you have to get, you better get them, because I'm going to where my son is, because I knew I was going to lose him. I knew Children's Services was going to take him from me. The whole time I was pregnant, I kept thinking, you know, I need to find someone to adopt him, because there's no way that I could take care of a baby. And I just kept praying to God to send me a Christian family that would adopt my son and raise him good and be able to take care of him. And I had a particular person in mind, but I didn't know this person. If I would see her, I just knew of her. If I were to see her in public, I wouldn't even know who she was. Well, he ended up getting taken from Children's Services and going in the foster care system. And the caseworker for Children's Services, she was a real mean lady, but that's what I needed. And in the hospital, she kept telling me, like, he's with a really good family. And, you know, I was like, who wants someone's baby? Child molesters. Like, that's just where my mind was going. And she told me, you know, I could go to rehab and I could work on getting them back. So I went to this little 6-week rehab. Then I went to a sober living house after that. And I think I was there for 5 days. And on that 5th day, it was my birthday. So I was like, it's my birthday. I'm leaving. I'm going back to my hometown. And I thought I was going to go there and do good. And I get there and, you know, my middle son's dad is there still shooting up, just, you know, in his own addiction. He's an addict too, but still shooting up. So I lasted about 3 days and ended up back in detox. 3 weeks later, I'd lost 25 pounds in them 3 weeks. And I ended up going to this different rehab. I ended up staying there for 5 months and going to a sober living house for 7 months. But it was weird. Because of COVID, I held my baby probably 15 times because he's had 3 open heart surgeries before he turned 18 months old. He could not get COVID or it could kill him. So I just visited him on Zoom all the time. And the more sober I got, I ended up finding out, though, the family that was fostering him was a family that I was praying would adopt him. That good Christian family, the exact people that I was praying for is who was fostering him. But the more sober I got, he has to take shots so he don't have a heart attack at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 8 p.m. And if he misses them by 15 minutes, he could die. And the more sober I got, I just kept thinking, you know, what if I missed that medicine? What if I forgot or didn't hear my alarm? If something happened to him, I was already going to feel like I killed him. So I ended up asking that family to adopt him.
Well, it sounds like that you only had the baby's welfare in mind, which is a great thing.
Yep. And it's an open adoption. We just visited him yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we've seen him for every holiday and every birthday.
That's great.
Yep. I ended up getting pregnant again in the sober living house. I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to explain this one.
What was it, man and woman in the house?
No.
Oh.
No, I was getting passes to spend the night at someone's house who was also in early recovery. And I ended up relapsing, going to a bar, and I got pregnant that night. And the person that got me pregnant was like, I don't want a baby. Why just abort it? And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I went that whole pregnancy by myself and ended up having this little beauty right here. And I just celebrated a year clean on Friday.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's a long time.
Yep. But I still got a long way to go.
Yep. Now your next goal is 2 years.
2 years.
And then after that, your goal is 5 years. That's how I'm doing it. As I go, I want my goals to incrementally increase.
Yes. Well, I've actually the rehab, a lot of good things happened going there because I didn't have, I dropped out when I was 18. I didn't have a high school diploma or a GED. The career center came to my rehab when I was in there, and they offered this adult diploma program where if you took a trade in their school, when you graduated, they would give you a diploma. And they had like 20 options laid out. And I told him, I was like, well, I'm a felon. Do I still have all these options? They was like, no. And they showed me about 6 options. And there's, one of them was business office skill specialist. And I was like, all right, I'll take that. And they ended up canceling that program because they couldn't find anybody that wanted to take it. So the other things were things that I would never take: HVAC, industrial maintenance, all, stuff like that. And I was like, well, I already have funding to go here because I'm in rehab. I can go to school. Let me just think about what I want to do. So I started looking around and seeing what was in high demand. So I've been in school for HVAC for 6 months, and I work at an HVAC company doing refrigeration now. So a lot of good things came out of that rehab. I get to get a diploma at the end of the year, and I have a trade. I got my license back. It cost me all my stimulus check, but I got my license back. Just basic things that I wanted when I first got there. Like, all I cared about was that I had a job, a house, and a license, the bare minimum things you need to survive. And I got back so much more than that. But when I quit doing drugs, I wasn't working any kind of 12-step program, and I ended up relapsing at the bar. But it was when I started working with a sponsor and actually working my 12-step program, I started changing on the inside, because you could take drugs away from me and I'm still the same shitty person, just not doing drugs. I had to really work on myself, and it ended up coming back full circle, because now I'm able to sponsor women and help them through their 12 steps so that when they are done, they can reach their hand out and help somebody else early in recovery.
That's great. I'm glad to hear you're doing so well.
Yep.
So you're just enjoying life nowadays. So you're working, you have a job, you have a license, everything you want. That's so great for you. Let me ask you one last thing. This is my last question. Do you have any advice for people watching and listening?
Yes. Work a 12-step program. Because all that time, them days you have clean, what does a key tag really mean? It doesn't mean nothing if you're not working on yourself from the inside. That 12-step program helps you heal from a lot of things that other people have done to you, but it also forces you to be honest and look at things that you have done to other people and make those amends and start cleaning up, your own side of the street. Start focusing on, what you're doing and realizing, like, I can only control myself. The rest of the world, I have no power over them, just as I don't have no power over drugs. And I wouldn't have been able to get to that realization without working a 12-step program with a sponsor.
That's your advice, is to go out, get a program, get a sponsor, make sure you work the steps the right way.
Yep.
It's awesome. I'm really happy to hear you're doing so well. It seems like you've been on quite a journey to where you are today, and that's all that matters, is where you ended up landing, So did you have anything else you want to add?
No, just grateful for every day I'm in recovery.
That's awesome. All right, so it's a good place to wrap it up. For everybody watching and listening, if you like what you heard and saw, go below and give us a like. Also, subscribe to see when we upload new videos. You can check us out at our website, www.addicts-anonymous.com. There you'll find some literature, as well as some other resources available. Also, you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, and TikTok. So hopefully you get in touch with us, do some reading as far as the literature we have, and that's all I have for today. So until next time.